Hello friends, this is Professor Forkner and I'm back with another video. In this video I'm going to be going over your assignments for week 2. I've had a lot of questions asking for clarification about things, and so I'm going to touch base on each of your assignments and hopefully offer some information that might be clarifying and answer your questions before you even have to ask them. Alright? So if you have questions about your assignments, please take a quick view or listen to this video, and hopefully it will clear some things up for you. So the first thing is your reading. This week, you are being asked to read the script analysis by Thomas. Now, depending on the edition that you have, or if you're like me, when I was assigned to be the instructor for this course, which was developed by Professor Harrell, so I'm not the first person to teach it, but when I was assigned this course, I was given this textbook. It's on my phone, right? So what that means is that the page numbers may not line up perfectly, so you may be having some questions as to, well, what am I supposed to be reading? You are wanting to read in Chapter 5, Thomas talks about plot, progressions, and structure. If you looked ahead at your assignment for this week, you're picking apart beats and units and scenes. So what you want to focus on in your reading is going to be, regardless of the page number, the information that you're looking for is the information on beats, on units. This is called progression. The second half of Chapter 5 is about story structure. So if you had questions about week 1, I recommend going ahead and diving into the structure part of the chapter, because it may actually answer some questions about about your posts from last week. All right, but the main thing you want to focus on, because it's going to be crucial to understanding so that you can do your assignment, the main thing you want to focus on in this chapter 5 is going to be the part about the progression of the dramatic action, right? And so he breaks down what is a beat, the smallest progression, the smallest piece of dramatic action. Then he's going to talk about units, and so on and so forth. Okay? So that should hopefully clarify this is what you need to focus on in your reading this week. All right? If your page numbers aren't quite lining up and you're a little confused. Okay, number two is going to be since we're on the subject, let's talk a little bit about your assignment for this week. Your assignment for this week is taking John Patrick Shanley's play Doubt, a Parable, and you are going to basically do what Thomas does in the script analysis book. He uses the play American Buffalo. You're basically gonna do the same thing, only with doubt. All right? So this is a 2-part assignment. The first part, like I just said, if you're lost, because it can be a little bit confusing as you're reading this. If you're lost, though, I want you to go back to your book. Go back to your book. I went back to the assignment description and I put it in bold and in green. If you're feeling lost and have questions about how to format your spectrum analysis, revisit Thomas's examples from American Buffalo and consider them a template. I promise, if you'll look at them, like I've pulled this up here on my phone. I wish I could do screen share, but it's not Zoom. You can see, if the screen will do, you'll see examples like this. This is what we're looking for, okay? Consider this a template, except you're not using American Buffalo, you're using Doubt by John Patrick Shanley. Does that make sense? I hope it's helpful, because if you just read the assignment description, your head may be spinning, and you may think, I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing. So that's why I showed you that just there, is use that as your guide, okay? As you're breaking down the beats, as you're putting them together in the units, we want to go back to script analysis and look at how does he do it, and now you're going to do basically the same thing, only you're going to do it with a different play. All right? And so that's part 1. Part two of your beat analysis is the beat analysis. All right, and this is actually pretty simple. You're going to you're not doing a whole scene. You're just going to be taking about three, maybe if you want to do 3, 4, 5 ish beats from a scene, and explain what differentiates each beat based on your point of view. As you look at the materials this week, you're going to see that beats are a pesky thing. They're a pesky thing. As actors, as theater folk, there are certain terms that we don't. It's not a science; it's an art, and so there are certain terms that we don't always completely agree on. And beats is kind of one of those. You're going to be introduced to the idea that there are playwright beats, director beats, and actor beats. So what you want to do for your beat analysis, if you read the description, is choose one of those points of view. Okay, a playwright is going to see beats one way, a director is going to see beats another way, and an actor is going to see their beats a different way. All right, because it's all about where your perspective is. How are you looking at the play? If you're a teacher, and I know many of you are, I would highly recommend you approach it from the point of view of a director, because you're probably going to be directing a lot more, right? So I might suggest picking that if you're a teacher. Right? If you're just an actor, then obviously pick the one that seems closest to you. You don't have to make this hard, okay? And so then you will, like I just said, identify a minimum of 3 beats, in a scene, and explain what differentiates those beats from as you move from beat to beat. From your point of view as a director. Use terminology from this week's study materials. Dr. Elfgren's handout will likely be the most helpful to you here. Scott Hayes' video lecture on beats is also very clarifying. All right. You do need to use different beats than the one that Professor Hayes uses in the video. So just wanting to touch base on that. So I hope that going through this was a little bit helpful. I can never tell because I'm not in a classroom. I'm more of an in-person kind of professor. But since COVID, everything is online now. So anyway, if you have any questions, please email me, okay? But I just wanted to touch base on that so that you were clear. If you're not sure, for instance, once again, how do I set this up? Go back to the script analysis book, the Thomas book, and see how does he do it. You're going to do the same thing. And then in part 2, you're kind of on your own, and you're picking your point of view as a director. And I'm taking a chunk of beats from a scene in Doubt, and I'm going to show you how we shift from beat to beat, okay? I just finished directing The Heiress here at Regent, and I was just chopping everything up into beats and shifting and all that sort of stuff. So if you've never done it before, you may find that it's actually very helpful in terms of rehearsing, just to be able to understand that this is where we've got a kind of a contained thought or a contained subject, right? And this can be a chunk that is easy, like you say, let's just take this beat. Right? Instead of saying, let's just do the whole scene. That can be very overwhelming, especially for young actors. So it's good to be able to just sort of mark, okay, where is the shift? Where's another shift? Where's the other shift? Okay? So it's a great tool for you to have in your toolbox. All right. Finally, last but not least, is the discussion board topic. The discussion board topic. Your big question this week is Doubt a Christian play? All right, I want to give you a little bit of context here. You're given a stack of questions that you can play with. It's a broad topic, and the idea is that you should kind of latch on to what kind of speaks to you. But what I'm curious about is, especially since Regent is a Christian school, and it's assumed that many of us who are involved in the class are going to have a faith-based background. This gives us an opportunity to kind of consider plays from that worldview, from that point of view. Okay, so the first question that is asked is, how do you define the term faith-based play? All right, just so that you know, at Regent, when we are working on deciding a season, very often we're looking to include at least one faith-based play for our Christian audience. All right. Um, so when I say it's faith-based, we're and it's for a Christian audience, that should give you a clue. That should give you a clue that this isn't simply about characters who believe in themselves. That when we're talking about faith, I'm a person of faith. Does that mean that how do you usually interpret that? Do we interpret that as I'm a person who believes in things? Or typically when we say I'm a person of faith, that means I'm a believer. I'm a Christian, right? That's that term. A faith-based play, kind of by connection, is a play that has to do with these kinds of spiritual elements. There was a show on TV when I was growing up, maybe several of you may remember it, called Touched by an Angel. It wasn't perfect. There was a lot of issues with it in terms of its theology, but that would have been considered a faith-based show because it's dealing specifically with spiritual elements. Okay, so this is a fun question for us to ask ourselves when we're dealing with plays like Doubt that take place in a church that deal with nuns and people in the bureaucracy and the politics of being in a church. But is it a Christian play? Is it a faith-based play? How do you define that? What do you think a Christian play is? Is it, a lot of times when we say, oh, that's a church play, right? This is kind of what we're aiming at right this week. That's church play. So if it's church play, a lot of times that is not seen as a good thing. That means it's going to be kind of like a very moral, didactic, Hallmark kind of play. It's gonna make you feel warm and fuzzy, and you're gonna learn a valuable lesson, and nothing's gonna get too bad, because it's a church play. It's a play for Christians, right? This week's topic is all about delving into that idea. All right. I just wanted to, and is a Christian play, as narrow of a thing? We think bathrobes and shepherd crooks, when we think about Christian play sometimes. But is there another way to look at it? Right. So just trying to nudge you along a little bit to give you some things to think about with your discussion board post, allow you to think about Christian plays, and maybe there's a different way to think about Christian plays, right? So take a look at that discussion board topic. As before, you do need to respond to 2 of your classmates' posts. As it says in the description, in your responses, avoid surface level affirmations. I sometimes call these Valentines. Like, you're so great. I love everything you say. You're so wonderful. I love you. Kiss, kiss, kiss. That's great. If you want to do that, I encourage you to do it. But then what I'd love to see you do is hit enter or return if you're on a Mac like me. Hit it twice, and then go into your breakdown. Go into your academic portion of the post. So I love the saying hello and the affirmation, but then separate that out. Keep that at the top, and then go into your response. And try to keep that as academic as possible, because it is still a master's program, right? Please use textual citations from the play and scripture to support your viewpoint on this idea of Christian art and Christian plays. Okay. There is a brief lecture by Professor Palladini that you might miss. It's kind of small in the description, so make sure you notice that and you take a quick view of that. All right. Thank you for hanging in there with this video. I know it was a little long, but I hope that it answered questions, maybe preemptively answered some questions. And have a good one, and I will see y'all next time.